Long before the world would come to know him as MF Doom, he was simply Daniel Dumile, a kid from Long Island with an unusual knack for music and a deep love for comic books. Born on January 9, 1971, in London, England, Daniel's early years were a mix of cultural influences. His mother was from Trinidad, and his father was Zimbabwean. Though born in the UK, his family moved to New York when he was still a child, settling in the bustling, vibrant neighborhood of Long Beach, Long Island. This would become the backdrop for his formative years, where the seeds of his future persona were planted. Growing up, Daniel was deeply influenced by the world around him. The late 70s and early 80s were a time of incredible change in the music scene, especially in New York. The streets were alive with the sounds of hip-hop, a new and exciting genre that was beginning to take over the city. For young Daniel, the blend of beats, rhymes, and culture was intoxicating. He spent hours listening to the pioneers of the genre, absorbing the energy and style that would one day influence his own work. But it wasn't just music that captured Daniel's imagination. He was equally obsessed with comic books. Characters like Dr. Doom, the villain from Marvel Comics, fascinated him. The intricate backstories, the complex personalities, and the idea of masked identities left a lasting impression on his young mind. These early interests in hip-hop and comics would later merge in a way no one could have anticipated, creating one of the most unique and enigmatic figures in music history. As he moved through his teenage years, Daniel began experimenting with music. He wasn't just a passive listener, he wanted to create. Alongside his brother Dingilizwe Dumile, better known as DJ Subroc, Daniel formed the group KMD, causing much damage. KMD was more than just a typical hip-hop group. It was a reflection of the worldviews Daniel and his brother were developing. Their music was socially conscious, addressing issues of race, identity, and injustice, topics that were as personal as they were political. KMD quickly made a name for themselves in the underground hip-hop scene. Their debut album, Mr. Hood, released in 1991, was a critical success. It combined clever sampling with sharp lyrics, painting a vivid picture of life as a young black man in America. The album was praised for its creativity and its unapologetic approach to addressing serious social issues. For Daniel, this was just the beginning. He was on the brink of something great, poised to take his place in the growing world of hip-hop. However, tragedy struck before KMD could reach its full potential. In 1993, just as they were working on their second album, Black Bastards, DJ Subroc was killed in a car accident. The loss was devastating for Daniel. His brother had been his closest collaborator, his partner in creativity. The death of Subroc marked a turning point in Daniel's life. The grief and pain were overwhelming, leading to the disbandment of KMD and sending Daniel into a deep period of mourning. During this time, Daniel virtually disappeared from the music scene. The man who had been full of potential, on the cusp of success, was now a ghost reeling from the loss of his brother and the collapse of his group. For years, he stayed out of the spotlight, grappling with his pain and trying to figure out what his next step in life would be. It was during these quiet years that the idea of MF Doom began to take shape. The comic books he loved as a child, particularly the character of Dr. Doom, began to resonate with him in new ways. Dr. Doom was a villain, yes, but he was also a tragic figure, someone who wore a mask not just to hide his face, but to protect himself from the world. This concept hit home for Daniel. In many ways, he felt like he needed a mask too, something to protect him from the world that had taken so much from him. This was the beginning of a transformation. Daniel Dumile was about to reemerge, not as the artist he once was, but as something entirely new, something darker, more mysterious, and infinitely more powerful. In the years following his brother's death and the dissolution of KMD, Daniel Dumile's life was shrouded in mystery. He had all but vanished from the public eye, a ghost in the world of hip-hop. But beneath the surface, something was brewing. The pain and grief that had driven him into seclusion began to transform into a new form of creative energy. This was not the end of his story, but rather the beginning of a new chapter, one that would change the face of hip-hop forever. It was during this period of isolation that Daniel conceived of the character who would become his alter ego, MF Doom. The concept of MF Doom was born out of a deep sense of disillusionment and loss. Inspired by the villainous Dr. Doom from Marvel Comics, Daniel saw in this character a reflection of his own struggles. Dr. Doom was a genius, a ruler, and most importantly, a man who hid his face behind a mask. The mask was both a shield and a weapon, something that allowed him to control how the world perceived him. For Daniel, the mask represented a way to protect himself from the pain and disappointment he had experienced. It was also a way to create something entirely new, something that would be unburdened by the tragedies of his past. The mask would become his trademark, a symbol of the enigmatic and complex persona he was about to unleash on the world. In 1997, Daniel Dumile reemerged as MF Doom. The first glimpses of this new identity were cryptic and mysterious. He began appearing at small venues, often unannounced, performing with his face obscured by a metal mask. The audience didn't quite know what to make of him. Was this the same artist who had been part of KMD, or was this someone entirely new? The answer was both. The mask allowed Daniel to reinvent himself completely. He was no longer just Daniel Dumile, the rapper from Long Island. He was MF Doom, a supervillain in the world of hip-hop. His performances were raw and intense, filled with complex lyrics that were as much about storytelling as they were about showing off his incredible wordplay. He was deliberately enigmatic, revealing little about himself and letting the mask do most of the talking. In 1999, MF Doom released his debut solo album, Operation Doomsday. The album was a stark departure from the work he had done with KMD. It was darker, more introspective, and deeply personal. The album's production, much of it done by Doom himself, was a mix of obscure samples and unconventional beats that created a sound unlike anything else in hip-hop at the time. Lyrically, Operation Doomsday was a masterclass in wordplay and storytelling. Doom's rhymes were dense and packed with references not just to his own life, but to a wide range of cultural touchstones from comic books to old television shows. The character of MF Doom was not just a mask he wore, it was a fully realized persona, a character who moved through the world of his music with the cunning and charisma of a true villain. The album's release was met with critical acclaim, particularly within the underground hip-hop community. Fans and critics alike were drawn to the mystery of MF Doom. Who was this masked rapper with the silver tongue? Why did he choose to hide his face? The intrigue only deepened as Doom himself refused to answer these questions, allowing the mystery to grow. But beyond the mystique, there was real substance to what MF Doom was creating. His music was challenging, both in terms of its lyrical complexity and its unconventional production. Doom was not interested in making music that fit into the mainstream. He was carving out his own path, one that was deeply rooted in his own experiences and his unique vision of what hip-hop could be. As Operation Doomsday began to circulate, MF Doom's cult following started to grow. His fans were drawn not just to the music, but to the entire world that Doom was building. This was a world where the lines between reality and fiction were blurred, where the artist was as much a character as the music he created. Doom's lyrics were filled with references to his own mythology stories of his rise, his fall, and his ultimate return as the masked villain. Despite the success of his debut, Doom remained an elusive figure. He rarely gave interviews, and when he did, he often stayed in character, speaking as MF Doom rather than as Daniel Dumile. This only added to the allure, making Doom a figure of legend in the underground scene. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a myth, a character who existed in the shadows, always one step ahead of those trying to figure him out. The mask, which had started as a way to protect himself, became a symbol of his power. It allowed him to move through the world of hip-hop on his own terms, free from the expectations and pressures that had once weighed him down. MF Doom was more than just a persona, it was a way of life, a philosophy that valued creativity, independence, and a fierce commitment to authenticity. As the new millennium dawned, MF Doom was poised to take his place as one of the most influential and innovative artists in hip-hop. The mask had given him a new lease on life, transforming his pain and loss into something powerful and lasting. But this was just the beginning. The world had only begun to glimpse the true genius of MF Doom, and there were many more chapters to be written in the story of the masked villain. As the 2000s came to a close, MF Doom found himself at the peak of his creative powers, yet he began to pull back from the public eye. Known for his mysterious persona and unpredictable movements, Doom started to retreat into the shadows, leaving fans and critics alike wondering what he was up to. This period, often referred to as the quiet years, was marked by sporadic releases, rumors, and a growing sense of mystery surrounding the man behind the mask. By 2005, Doom had already established a formidable discography with landmark albums like Operation Doomsday, Madvillainy, and MM. cementing his status as one of hip-hop's most innovative and influential artists. However, following the release of Born Like This in 2009, his output began to slow down considerably. While fans eagerly awaited new projects, Doom remained largely silent, offering little explanation for his absence. During these quiet years, Doom's retreat from the spotlight only added to his mystique. The character he had created, an enigmatic, masked villain who operated outside the norms of the industry, seemed to bleed into his real life. Doom was never one to play by the rules, and his withdrawal from the public eye was as much a part of his artistry as his music. By removing himself from the constant churn of the music industry, he allowed the myth of MF Doom to grow, becoming larger than life. One of the most intriguing aspects of this period was the rise of rumors and stories about Doom's activities, or lack thereof. Whispers circulated about Doom posters individuals who would don the mask and perform at live shows in his place. These stand-ins added a new layer to the character of MF Doom, blurring the lines between reality and fiction. Fans would attend shows unsure if they were seeing the real Doom or one of his many doppelgangers. For some, this was frustrating, but for others, it only added to the allure of the man behind the mask. The use of Doom posters was both a practical move and a continuation of the themes that had always been central to Doom's work: anonymity, deception, and the subversion of expectations. By sending someone else to perform in his stead, Doom challenged the very notion of authenticity in hip-hop. What did it mean to be real in an industry built on personas and performance? Was the performance any less authentic if it wasn't Doom himself behind the mask? These were the kinds of questions Doom's actions provoked, forcing fans to think critically about the nature of identity and artistry. Despite his retreat from the limelight, Doom did occasionally resurface with new material. These releases were often unexpected and came with little fanfare, in keeping with his unpredictable nature. In 2012, he collaborated with rapper-producer Jheneril Jarrell on the album Key to the Cuffs, under the name JJ Doom. The project was well received, with fans praising the chemistry between Doom and Jarrell. The album explored themes of displacement and alienation, reflecting Doom's own experiences of being caught between different worlds, both musically and geographically. During this time, Doom also continued to collaborate with a variety of artists, lending his distinct voice and production style to projects by the likes of Ghostface Killah, Flying Lotus, and Bishop Nehru. These collaborations kept his name in the conversation even as his solo output became less frequent. Doom's influence could be felt in the work of a new generation of artists who were inspired by his approach to music and his refusal to conform to industry standards. But even as his influence grew, Doom remained an elusive figure. He rarely gave interviews, and when he did, he often stayed in character, further blurring the lines between the artist and the persona. Fans and journalists alike were left to piece together the details of his life and career from the few breadcrumbs he left behind. This only added to the sense of myth surrounding MF Doom. He was a character in his own story, one that was as much about what was unsaid as what was revealed. The quiet years were also a time of personal challenges for Doom. In 2010, he was denied re-entry to the United States after a European tour, leading him to settle in London, the city of his birth. This exile from his adopted home added another layer of complexity to his story. Doom had always been an outsider in the music industry, but now he was literally on the outside, separated from his family in the country where he had built his career. Despite these setbacks, Doom's influence continued to grow, both in the underground and the mainstream. His music, characterized by its dense lyricism, complex production, and unique approach to storytelling, resonated with a wide range of listeners. Artists across genres cited him as an influence, and his albums were frequently mentioned in discussions of the greatest hip-hop records of all time. As the years went by, the world began to wonder if Doom would ever return to the forefront of the music scene. His absence was felt deeply by fans, who longed for more of the creativity and brilliance that had defined his earlier work. But true to his nature, Doom remained unpredictable, leaving the world to speculate about what he might do next. In this period of silence, MF Doom's legacy only grew. His music became a touchstone for those seeking something different in hip-hop, something that defied easy categorization and pushed the boundaries of what the genre could be. The quiet years, rather than diminishing his impact, solidified his status as one of the most influential and innovative artists in the history of hip-hop. On October 31, 2020, the world received the heartbreaking news that MF Doom, the masked supervillain of hip-hop, had passed away. The announcement was made on December 31st by his wife, Jasmine Dumille, through a post on social media, leaving fans in the music world in shock. The timing of the announcement, nearly 2 months after his death, was in keeping with the enigma that had always surrounded Doom. Even in his final moments, he remained true to the character he had created, always one step ahead, always maintaining a sense of mystery. Doom's passing marked the end of an era. For over 2 decades, he had been a unique and influential figure in hip-hop, known for his complex lyrics, innovative production, and the iconic mask that became his trademark. His death was met with an outpouring of grief and tributes from fans, fellow artists, and critics alike. The hip-hop community mourned the loss of one of its most beloved and mysterious figures, reflecting on the immense impact he had on the genre. Artists from all corners of the music industry paid their respects, highlighting how Doom's work had influenced their own. The tributes came from both those who had worked with him and those who had been inspired by him from afar. Madlib, his collaborator on the legendary Madvillainy album, expressed his sorrow, acknowledging the loss of a creative partner and friend. Others, like Flying Lotus and Earl Sweatshirt, spoke of how Doom's approach to music had shaped their own artistic journeys. The mask that had once served as a symbol of Doom's anonymity and protection became a powerful emblem of his legacy. It represented not just the character he had created, but the entire ethos of his career, one that valued creativity, independence, and a refusal to conform to the expectations of the industry. The mask allowed him to navigate the music world on his own terms, and in doing so, he became a hero to countless artists who saw in him a blueprint for how to remain true to oneself in an industry that often demands compromise. In the wake of his death, fans and critics revisited Doom's extensive discography, finding new layers of meaning in his music. His lyrics, always dense and multifaceted, took on even greater significance as listeners reflected on the life and career of the man behind the mask. Albums like Madvillainy, MM.Food, and Operation Doomsday were celebrated anew, with many recognizing them as some of the most important works in the history of hip-hop. Doom's legacy is also evident in the influence he continues to have on a new generation of artists. His approach to music, unapologetically unique, fiercely independent, and deeply rooted in the art of storytelling, has inspired countless others to push the boundaries of what hip-hop can be. Artists like Tyler, the Creator, and Earl Sweatshirt have spoken openly about how Doom's work shaped their own artistic visions, and his influence can be heard in the music of many contemporary rappers, who prioritize lyricism and creativity over commercial success. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Doom's legacy is the way he changed the perception of what it means to be an artist in hip-hop. In a genre often dominated by larger-than-life personas and flashy displays of wealth, Doom remained an outsider, choosing instead to focus on the craft of making music. He showed that success in hip-hop didn't have to come from playing by the industry's rules, that it was possible to carve out a space for oneself by staying true to one's artistic vision. As the world continues to reflect on the life and work of MF Doom, his legacy remains as strong as ever. His music, filled with intricate wordplay, clever references, and unforgettable beats, continues to resonate with listeners, old and new. The character he created, an enigmatic masked villain, has become a symbol of artistic integrity and creative freedom, inspiring future generations to embrace their own unique voices. In the end, MF Doom's greatest triumph was not just in the music he made, but in the way he lived his life as an artist. He remained true to his vision, never compromising on his art, and in doing so, he left behind a legacy that will endure for generations to come. The mask may now hang in silence, but the echoes of his influence will be felt in the world of hip-hop for years to come. The story of MF Doom is one of creativity, resilience, and the power of staying true to oneself. He was a man who turned tragedy into art, who transformed his pain into something beautiful and lasting. Though he may be gone, the music he created and the impact he had on hip-hop will ensure that MF Doom remains a legend forever shrouded in mystery, yet eternally influential. By the early 2000s, MF Doom had firmly established himself as one of hip-hop's most enigmatic and innovative figures. However, what truly set him apart was not just his music or his mask, but his ability to reinvent himself time and time again. Each new persona he adopted was like a different facet of a jewel, reflecting yet another layer of his creativity and complexity. Where most artists might have been content to ride the wave of a single successful identity, Doom chose to dive deeper into the realm of alter egos, each with its own unique voice and perspective. One of the most notable of these alter egos was Victor Vaughn. Unlike MF Doom, who embodied the persona of an all-knowing supervillain, Victor Vaughn was a younger, more brash character, a version of Doom, who was still finding his way in the world. The name itself was a clever nod to Dr. Doom's real name, Victor Von Doom, but Victor Vaughn was no mere clone of MF Doom. He was a distinct character with his own stories to tell, often reflecting the experiences and frustrations of youth in the modern world. In 2003, Doom released Vaudeville Villain under the Victor Vaughn moniker. The album was a departure from the dark, introspective style of Operation Doomsday. Instead, it featured a more aggressive, battle rap style with Victor Vaughn taking on all comers with sharp wit and ferocious energy. The production was slicker, more polished, with beats that were both futuristic and gritty. Tracks like Lick Upon and Let Me Watch showcased Doom's ability to adapt his flow and lyricism to fit the persona of Victor Vaughn, delivering bars that were as clever as they were cutting. What made Vaudeville Villain particularly remarkable was how it expanded the narrative universe that Doom was creating. Victor Vaughn wasn't just another rapper, he was a character living in a world of Doom's own making, complete with his own backstory and motivations. The album was like a comic book brought to life, with Doom playing the role of both author and illustrator, crafting a story that was as engaging as it was entertaining. But Victor Vaughn was just one of many faces that Doom would show the world. Around the same time, he also introduced another alter ego, King Ghidorah. This persona was even more ambitious, drawing inspiration from Japanese kaiju films, particularly the three-headed dragon King Ghidorah. As King Ghidorah, Doom positioned himself as an otherworldly observer, a being from another planet who commented on the state of Earth with a mix of detachment and disdain. The album Take Maine to Your Leader, released under the King Ghidorah name in 2003, was a sprawling cinematic experience. Unlike Vaudeville Villain, where Victor Vaughn was front and center, King Ghidorah was more of a producer and narrator, letting other voices take the spotlight. The album featured a variety of guest appearances, with Doom orchestrating the chaos from behind the scenes. Tracks like Phasers and Antimatter showcased a more experimental side of Doom's production, blending samples from old science fiction films with heavy, distorted beats. Take Maine to Your Leader was both a critical and artistic success, further cementing Doom's reputation as a master of reinvention. King Ghidorah wasn't just a side project, it was a fully realized world, complete with its own rules and mythology. For Doom, these alter egos weren't just gimmicks, they were extensions of his creative genius, allowing him to explore different themes and sounds that might not have fit under the MF Doom banner. The early 2000s also saw Doom collaborating with other artists in ways that further expanded his influence and reach. One of the most significant of these collaborations was with producer Madlib, under the duo name Madvillain. Madlib, known for his eclectic beats and deep knowledge of music, was the perfect foil for Doom's intricate wordplay and unconventional approach to rap. Together, they created Madvillainy, an album that would go on to become one of the most acclaimed projects in hip-hop history. Released in 2004, Madvillainy was a masterclass in collaboration. Madlib's production was dense and layered, filled with obscure samples and unpredictable shifts in tone. Doom's lyrics were equally complex, full of non-sequiturs, double entendres, and vivid imagery. Songs like All Caps and Accordion became instant classics, showcasing the seamless chemistry between Madlib's beats and Doom's rhymes. Madvillainy wasn't just an album, it was an experience, a journey into the minds of two of hip-hop's most innovative artists. The album received widespread critical acclaim, with many hailing it as a landmark achievement in hip-hop. It was praised for its originality, its refusal to adhere to conventional structures, and its sheer creativity. For Doom, Madvillainy was a crowning achievement, a project that demonstrated his ability to push the boundaries of what hip-hop could be. The album's success also brought him a new level of recognition, both within the underground scene and in the wider music world. Despite the growing acclaim, Doom remained as elusive as ever. He continued to operate under multiple personas, each with its own distinct sound and style. This ability to shape-shift, to move seamlessly between different identities, became a defining feature of his career. For Doom, music was not just a means of expression, it was a form of storytelling, and each persona was a different character in the epic narrative he was crafting. As the years went on, these alter egos and collaborations would only add to the legend of MF Doom. He was not just a rapper, he was a storyteller, a world builder, and a master of reinvention. Through characters like Victor Vaughn and King Ghidorah, and through groundbreaking collaborations like Madvillain, Doom showed the world that hip-hop could be more than just music, it could be a universe unto itself, full of endless possibilities. As MF Doom continued to build his legacy through various alter egos and groundbreaking collaborations, one thing became increasingly clear: his genius lay not just in the characters he created or the beats he rapped over, but in the lyrics themselves. Doom's wordplay was unmatched in the world of hip-hop. He was a lyricist, a master of language who could twist and manipulate words in ways that left listeners in awe. His rhymes were dense, intricate, and often filled with layers of meaning that took multiple listens to fully unpack. One of the most distinctive features of Doom's lyrical style was his use of internal rhymes. Unlike many rappers who focused on end rhymes, Doom would often pack his verses with rhymes that fell within the lines themselves, creating a rhythmic complexity that set his flow apart. Take, for example, his verse on the track Rap Snitch Niches from the Food album. True, there's rules to this shit. Fools dare care, everybody want to rule the world with tears for fear. Yeah, tell it on the mountain hill, running up they mouth bill, everybody doubting still. In just a few lines, Doom manages to weave together multiple internal rhymes, while also referencing pop culture Tears for Fear, nodding to the band Tears for Fears, and offering a critique of the rap game. It's this kind of complexity that made Doom's lyrics so compelling. Every line was packed with wordplay, references, and double meanings, creating a tapestry of sound and meaning that was both entertaining and intellectually stimulating. Doom's use of sampling in his production also played a crucial role in shaping his lyrical style. He had a deep knowledge of music and a vast collection of records, which he would dig through to find the perfect snippets of sound. These samples were often obscure, pulled from old cartoons, TV shows, or forgotten records, and they added an additional layer of depth to his music. For Doom, the samples were not just background noise, they were an integral part of the storytelling, helping to set the scene and add context to his lyrics. A perfect example of this can be found in the track Beef Rap from Food. The song opens with a sample from the 1973 film Coffee, where a character says, "I know you're hungry, ain't no use arguing about it." This sets the stage for a song that uses food as a metaphor for the rap game, with Doom serving up verses filled with puns, double entendres, and social commentary. The sampling on Beef Rap isn't just a backdrop, it's part of the narrative, helping to reinforce the themes Doom is exploring in his lyrics. But what truly set Doom apart was his ability to infuse his lyrics with a sense of humor and playfulness, even when tackling serious subjects. Doom's verses were often laced with puns, wordplay, and clever turns of phrase that made his music as fun as it was thought-provoking. He had a way of making listeners smile, even as he delivered cutting social commentary or explored the darker aspects of his psyche. One of the best examples of this is the track One Beer from the Madvillainy album. Over a looping sample from Cortex's Hued October 1971, Doom delivers a verse that is as witty as it is complex. Holding an M16, see with the pen I'm extreme now, bullet holes left in my peep's clothes, I'm suited up with street flows and heat goes. In this verse, Doom showcases his ability to blend vivid imagery with his lyrical prowess. He paints a picture of himself as a formidable force in the rap game, using his pen as a weapon to craft powerful verses. His wordplay here is intricate, with internal rhymes and clever turns of phrase that highlight his skill as a lyricist. Doom's lyrics were often filled with references to his experiences and his observations of the world around him. He had a unique ability to capture the essence of life in his rhymes, whether he was talking about the challenges of growing up, the complexities of relationships, or the intricacies of the music industry. His lyrics were a reflection of his mind, a place where reality and imagination blended seamlessly. For Doom, the music was not just about telling a story, it was about creating an experience. He was a master of atmosphere, using his lyrics, samples, and beats to transport listeners into his world. Whether he was embodying the persona of MF Doom, Victor Vaughn, or King Ghidorah, he brought his characters to life through his words, making them as real and relatable as any figure in hip-hop. Another hallmark of Doom's lyrical style was his ability to layer meanings in his verses. A single line could contain multiple interpretations depending on how you read it. This complexity was part of what made Doom's music so enduring. Fans could return to his albums years after their release and discover new things they hadn't noticed before. His lyrics invited listeners to engage with them on a deeper level, to pick apart the references and find the hidden messages. For instance, in the track Figaro from the Madvillainy album, Doom delivers the line, "The rest is empty with no brain, but the clever nerd, the best MC with no chain you ever heard." This line works on several levels. On the surface, it's a boast about being the best rapper without the need for flashy jewelry, a common status symbol in hip-hop. but it also subtly critiques the materialism that often pervades the industry, positioning Doom as a figure who values intellect and creativity over superficial displays of wealth. Beyond his lyrical prowess, Doom's influence extended into the very fabric of hip-hop culture. He was a pioneer of the DIY ethos, producing much of his own work and maintaining control over his creative output. This independence was a key part of his appeal, inspiring countless other artists to take charge of their own careers and create music on their own terms. Doom's legacy is also deeply tied to his approach to collaboration. He was never content to stay in his lane. Instead, he sought out partnerships with artists who shared his passion for pushing boundaries. These collaborations weren't just about making music, they were about expanding the possibilities of what hip-hop could be. Projects like Madvillainy with Madlib and The Mouse and The Mask with Danger Mouse showcased Doom's versatility and his ability to adapt his style to fit different sonic landscapes. Through his innovative use of language, his complex wordplay, and his willingness to explore new creative avenues, MF Doom left an indelible mark on the world of hip-hop. His lyrics, filled with humor, intelligence, and insight, continue to resonate with fans and artists alike. Whether you're a casual listener or a die-hard fan, there's always something new to discover in Doom's music, a testament to his genius and his enduring influence. As the 2000s progressed, MF Doom's reputation as a lyrical mastermind only grew. He had carved out a niche for himself in the hip-hop world, a place where creativity and intellect reigned supreme. But even as he continued to push the boundaries of what was possible in music, the enigmatic figure behind the mask remained as elusive as ever, leaving fans to wonder what the next chapter in his story would hold.